My son Christian was born December 26, 1981. He was born with his umbilical cord wrapped around his neck, and we had complications. But he was fine after everything. They gave him oxygen. Then when he was 7, he was playing with his brothers and he hit his head. And so we rushed him to the hospital, and he had a concussion, and the radiologist did CAT scan on him, and on 3 slices of that CAT scan, he had his AVM showed up on the right side of his brain. The AVM is arterial venous malformation, and it's a birth defect. Anybody could have it, but he got a blood clot in his. We did not know this till he was 14. He got a blood clot in it because they're just dormant vessels that were sitting on the left side of his brain, and he got a blood clot in it, and it ruptured. And when it ruptured, Christian had to have half of his brain removed, all of the left side, and only the right side was left. Then Christian was in like a comatose state, but he was aware of his surroundings. He knew who we were. He was not paralyzed. He had emotions, and he just couldn't talk. He couldn't do things for himself.
Quick question.
So,
when he was little and he had the accident, did y'all go to the doctor? Was there a CAT scan done?
Yes.
Did they find anything?
They misdiagnosed him and said there was nothing, when in fact there were 3 slices of the CAT scan showed the AVM.
So they told you there was nothing wrong, and
Right.
y'all went on for 10 more years. How many?
7 more years.
7 more years, thinking nothing's wrong.
Right.
But the problem showed in the CAT scan.
Right.
Okay.
And then when the neurosurgeon asked us, had Christian ever had any headaches or been in the hospital for, and my son Ijan says, "Mom, don't you remember when he hit his head and he had to go to the hospital?" So we find out that they sent us the CAT scan, and the chief of radiologists, Dr. Joseph Petronio at the time, he saw the CAT scan, and he said that the radiologist was responsible. So we went to Hawaii and had a case.
Responsible for what?
For misdiagnosing Christian when he could have removed the AVM early on, because it was on top of the brain, not in the brain.
So if he had been diagnosed correctly when he was younger, Christian would be alive today?
Right.
Okay.
Then, so we had a lawsuit because Dr. Petronio he says that the radiologist messed up, and that Christian he should have seen it, and Christian would be probably very, very normal, because they would have just taken it off because it wasn't inside the brain, it was on top of the brain.
Okay.
Anyhow, I took care of Christian, and we were at Eggleston. They tried to put Christian out, and we had this lawsuit going on, and so Eggleston took us to court to try and put Christian in a nursing home. And Dr. Petronio came as one of my witnesses, and he went and spoke to the judge in his chambers and told the judge then that Christian should not be in a nursing home, and that he would share, which is unheard of, he would share guardianship with me for Christian's medical and discharge. So they could not put Christian in a nursing home. Time passes, and then I bring Christian home. And when he was at home, I had health care come for 10 hours a day. The rest of the time, I and my sons helped with taking care of Christian, and he never had any pressure sores. He got up every day. Even when we were at Eggleston, he got up every day. He never had, and I stayed with him all the time. But when he came home, he never had pressure sores. He didn't have a heart problem or anything. And his skin was flawless, to the point that if you go back to look at any of his medical records from any of the hospitals he ever attended, you will see that one of the things was that Christian's skin was so well preserved, and that
was under your care.
Under my care,
Okay.
yes. So then I lose my home, and the state comes in.
Why'd you lose your home?
Because it foreclosed.
Okay.
And Christian was in the hospital. And
so y'all spent a lot of money on medical bills and things like that?
No,
or was the insurance covering it?
Yeah, he had medical, but just surviving, and I couldn't keep up with it. But anyhow, Christian was at Eggleston, and he had pneumonia. And during that period, we were trying to get him into a nursing home that we felt was appropriate, meaning myself and and Dr. Glenn. And so then the state came in, and I went to the courts and told them that I was indigent, I needed some kind of public defender, and the judge denied me that right. Then when the hearing came to a close, she said I had a week to find a nursing home. But I told the judge then that Crawford Long, and it is in his records, that Crawford Long had placed Christian, and he was going to go to a nursing home. And Dr. Glenn was made aware of that, and she thought that was for the best interest of Christian to be in the proper area. And so the state came in and said I didn't have a place for Christian. When you look at the records at Crawford Long and you look at Dr. Glenn's records, you will see that Christian was placed, had been placed, and the week that they allowed me to find a nursing home, I also went and looked at other nursing homes and found at least 5 of them in the area. I went and even got an apartment so that I could bring him home and take care of him. But the state said I didn't do that. That Crawford did not have a nursing home for him, which was a lie. And
Can you prove that Crawford Long had a nursing home for him?
Yes, it's in the documentation.
Okay.
It's in his medical records.
Okay.
Yes, and so I went to the judge's clerk's office and asked to have a copy of the transcripts from the hearing, and she told me that there are no copies. They erased them.
Okay.
And I'm not an attorney, so I did not know if that's true or what, but I figured they should have some kind of documentation, because that Monday, the day that I went to court, the day that the judge also told me I had a week to find Christian a place, I did. They had already changed it and said I didn't, so the state came in, took Christian, put him into a nursing home. And I told them that they were going to kill my son. So I had problems with the nursing home because Christian was coming up with pressure sores all over. He had them on his ears. They weren't getting him up. They weren't turning him. I asked them to come in and suction him. They wouldn't come in. It was like they were just taking their time, and my son is sitting up here gagging. So I suctioned him. So then they told me I couldn't see Christian.
So wait,
because
so Christian was choking on something?
He was choking on his phlegm, and he needed to be suctioned.
So someone's supposed to suction it out,
right?
And no one was doing it.
Nobody was doing it.
And
So
you were watching this.
Yes, and so I did. So then they came back and said that I wasn't allowed to suction my son, and
if you didn't suction him, what could have happened?
He could have choked to death.
Okay.
You know.
Where were they at the time he was choking?
I have no idea.
And you were with him?
Yeah, they should have been down there with him.
So they weren't there. You decided to go ahead and take care of it to save his life on your own.
Right.
And they got mad at you for it.
Right. And they got mad over anything and everything.
That you did.
That I did. And I told them that Christian had a bed because he was so tall that he had a bed customized. They could have the belt. He had a wheelchair that was customized for him. They never picked up the bed, nor did they pick up the wheelchair. I asked them repeatedly, why does Christian have pressure sores? Because if you don't turn Christian every 2 hours and Christian was not paralyzed, so he could move. But there were